for this video, we're going to have the inverse variation, where it is the second kind of variation. And the first kind of variation that we have a video last time is the direct variation. Now we are in the second kind of variation, which is this inverse variation. So now let's have the inverse variation. So when we say inverse variation, it refers to the relationship where the product xy is constant no matter how the values of x and y vary. If y varies inversely as x, if you noticed, kapag inverse tayo, we have the keyword inversely. So, ito yung titignan natin. If you remember sa direct variation, we have the directly keyword to identify what kind of variation are we going to use. So, kapag sinabi nating directly, therefore, we are going to use the direct variation or the first kind of variation. But, when we encounter the term inversely, then we are going to use, or it's time to use, the inverse variation. So now, if y varies inversely as x, then the formula that we're going to use is y, or the first variable, is inversely or equal to the constant over the second variable x. So the constant will be on the numerator and the second variable is in the denominator. Okay? Same lang din tayo. Yung k is the constant of variation. So, here in our graph, in direct variation, we have presented as well the graph where one variable increases, the other one will also increase. Ibig sabihin, same siya ng result. If one variable decrease, the other one will also decrease as well. But in inverse variation, when we say inverse, no, ibig sabihin, magkaiba siya ng way. So, here, in the graph, as one variable increases, the other one will increase. Hindi siya pareha. So, kapag nag-increase yung isa magdi-decrease, and vice versa. Paano po yun? If one decreases, the other one or the other variable will also decrease. Ngayon, how are we going to prove this graph if this is inverse variation? So, now let's have the ordered pair. So, the first ordered pair that we have, x is 2 hours and y is 120 miles per hour. 120. So this is the first ordered pair. We cannot identify if this is inverse or direct if we are going to get only one ordered pair. So at least two ordered pairs so that you can identify if this is inverse or it is a direct variation. So next variable natin is yung k natin. Yung next ordered pair natin is yung x natin is 3 and yung y natin is 80. And then, let's have this third ordered pair which is 4 ang x and 60 naman ang ating 60 miles per hour ang ating y. Now, let's identify the first variable which is yung x natin. Yung x natin from 2 naging 3, naging 4, therefore, x is increases. And yung y natin from 120 naging 60, therefore, y decreases. Ibig sabihin, this is or this graph represent as inverse variation. So, this is how we identify if the graph is a inverse or direct variation. Now, let's have an example on how to solve the inverse variation. So, always remember this formula, y is equal to k over x, where the denominator is the second variable and the numerator is the constant of variation. Now, let's have this one. If n varies inversely as m and n is equal to 5 when m is 3, we're going to find the n when m is 5. So here is to have our formula. So yung formula natin is n, the first variable, is varies inversely as m the second variable. Therefore, we have the constant here and the second variable. Now, we have the formula. Ang process nito ay katulad lang din ng ating direct variation. What are we going to do if the k is not given doon sa ating problem? Then, we need to get the value of the constant of variation or the k. So, we need to substitute the value of n, which is 5, is equal to k since it is not yet given, and m is 3. So, here, to solve this one, if you remember, any whole number has its own denominator, which is 1. So to solve this one, or to find the value of k, we need to solve it using cross multiplication method. So 5 times 3 is 15 is equal to 1 times k, it is equal to k. Therefore, we have the constant of variation. And to get the equation of variation, we need to substitute the value of k to the formula. So n is equal to 15 over m. So now we have the equation of variation where we can use to find the missing variable n when m is equal to 5. So ang hinahanap natin is n at eto yung given natin, 5. So n is equal to 15 over the value of m, which is 5, and solve this one, n is equal to 3. So therefore, it is our missing variable n, which is 3. Now let's proceed with another example. Y varies inversely as x, and y is equal to 10 and when x is equal to 12. Now let's make first a formula since constant of variation is not yet given. So y, first variable, is varies inversely, so k in the numerator, and second variable in the denominator. Find the value of k since k is not given. Substitute the value of y, which is 10, is equal to k over value of x is 12. And then, using cross multiplication, this is over 1. 10 times 12 is 120, is equal to 1 times constant is constant. So, k is 120. So, substitute it to the formula. Y is equal to 120 over x. Now, we have the equation of variation. We can find now the value of y when x is 6. So, y is equal to 120 and the value of x is 6. So, over 6. And y is equal to 20. So, the value of y is 20. Now, let's have the last two example in our inverse variation. So, here is if y varies inversely as x. So, first, let's have our formula. Y is varies inversely as x. And there is no given constant variation, then we need to find the constant variation. So, y is 15 is equal to, k is not given, and x is equal to 4. And have the denominator of 1, cross multiplication, 15 multiplied by 4 is 60, is equal to 1 times k is k. So we have the value of k. Let's have the equation of variation where k is substituted to the formula. So y is equal to k over y is equal to 60 over x. Now we have the equation of variation. We can find the value of y when x is 10. So y is equal to 60 over the value of x, which is 10, and y is equal to 6. Therefore, this is the value of the missing variable y. Now, let's have our example. So, here in this example, the missing variable is the first variable. Ngayon, the missing variable here is the second variable. So let's have A varies inversely as B. So therefore A is equal to constant over B, where V is not given, or we're going to find the value of B. Now let's have this one. Since walang value ang K, we need to find the value of K. So A is 10 is equal to K over B is 3. So cross multiply, and this one have a denominator of 1. 10 times 3 is 30 is equal to 1 times K is K. So here, let's have the equation of variation. A is equal to 30 over B. And now we have the equation of variation. We can find the B when A is 3. So ang hahanapin natin is second variable B. Therefore, A is 3 is equal to 30 over B. So here, we are going to use the cross multiplication. So meron tayong denominator 1, and when we cross multiply this, 3 times B is 3B, and 1 times 30 is equal to 30. Now, paano natin hahanapin yung B? So, kailangan B lang yung natitira dito. Since B has a coefficient of 3, to eliminate 3, we can cancel, we can divide both sides by 3, cancel 3, the remaining is B is equal to 30 over 3 is 10. So the value of B is 10. So this is how we solve the inverse variation.